Perhaps the most startling thing about the Premier League table at this point this season is just how low West Ham happen to be on it. Putting aside the three clubs that have more or less been destined for relegation since the very start of the league campaign, West Ham have probably been the second worst established top five club in England so far this season. Now, there's much to be said for the manner in which West Ham dismissed David Moyes, what came after that, and whether or not Graham Potter can improve the club's fortunes in 2025. But today I wanted to take a look at how West Ham are run off the pitch and why the club's inability to keep up with some of the well-run clubs in the middle of the table has led to them quickly falling down it towards the bottom. In terms of money spent, few could doubt the intentions of West Ham's owners. The London club has spent more than all but six clubs in England over the course of the last 5 seasons, which is actually more than Liverpool, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa in that time. But the problems have arisen due to the manner in which the Hammers have spent their money in the transfer window. When we take a look at how much money West Ham have spent per point won this season and compare it to Brighton, Bournemouth and Brentford, we can see that the Hammers have spent almost twice as much as the latter two, and around 6 million more per point than Brighton this season. And those figures have been consistently higher than the three smarter clubs over the course of the last 5 seasons. Now, this unquestionably is because West Ham have a habit of signing older and more established players, where the likes of Brighton, Bournemouth and Brentford typically sign younger players from relative backwaters in European or even global football. For example, in the last 5 seasons, West Ham have spent more than half of the transfer fees they've paid on players from other Premier League clubs, and a further 23% on players from Europe's other top 5 leagues. In stark comparison, Brighton have only spent around 8% of their total transfer budget on players from other Premier League clubs, while a massive 72% of that transfer budget has gone on signing players from outside Europe's top 5 leagues, either in other divisions across the continent or even further afield in South America, North America or Asia. But that's not even West Ham's only issue. It'd be one thing if they were signing young players with huge amounts of potential from other Premier League clubs. The biggest issue is the fact that they're spending a vast amount of money on ready-made stars that are well into their careers. When we take a look at the average age of their signings each season in comparison to Brighton's, we can see that the only time the two clubs have come close to one another was last season, which was specifically because the Seagulls signed 37-year-old James Milner. Rather remarkably, over the course of the last 5 seasons, Brighton's signings on average have been 3 years and 7 months younger than the average age of West Ham signings in that same period of time. So in other words, West Ham are signing older, more expensive players, while the clubs with smaller budgets than them in the middle of the Premier League are leapfrogging them because they're signing younger, better players that have been scouted from outside of the Premier League. So much so that when we calculate the average age of every current West Ham player when they've joined the club, it comes out at 26.1 years, which is the joint highest average in the entire Premier League. West Ham are clearly a very historic and well-supported club, and they have demands on them from that support that simply doesn't exist at Bournemouth, Brentford, or even Brighton. But if they don't get smarter in the transfer window, they're going to fall further and further behind these more nimble and better run clubs. And for all of Potter's talents as a manager, there's only so much he'll be able to do towards the end of this season and next season if he's stuck with an older squad full of worse players compared to their rivals in the Premier League.